Hello and welcome to News Across Nigeria. I'm Joke Rogers. Coming up on the program, 13 donor countries assess humanitarian situation in northeast Nigeria, say all hands must be on deck. Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative hands over rebuilt schools and police stations to Yobe state authorities. And the Kwara state government moves to prevent blindness in children. Welcome to the program. The Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, has appealed to Nigerians not to fret over the health of President Muhammad Buhari. In a statement signed by Dr. Saraki, he said he, along with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, and Senate Leader Ahmed Lawan, visited the President at the Abuja House in London. According to him, President Buhari is doing well and in good spirits. He says the President's absence has not left any vacuum, as all arms of governments are functioning well. Meanwhile, the acting president, Professor Osinbajo, has approved the appointment of Mr. Usman Mohammed as interim chief executive officer of the Transmission Company of Nigeria with immediate effect. He replaces Dr. Abubakar Atiku, who has been advised to hand over the affairs of the company. Until his appointment, Mr. Mohammed was the principal power utility transformation specialist in the AFDB's Nigerian office. Mr. Mohammed's appointment is part of efforts by the federal government to reposition the company for better service delivery. The new CEO's contract has a 12-month non-extendable deadline to set transmission service providers and independent system operators on a path of greater operational efficiency and effectiveness. Ahead of the February 24 Oslo Humanitarian Conference on Nigeria and the Lake Chad region, 13 donor countries are conducting assessment tours to Borno State in northeast Nigeria, where millions have been displaced by the Boko Haram insurgency. The UN and other sister agencies have launched major emergency appeals for increased funding to effectively bridge the gap in the crisis-affected areas. Representatives of governments of donor countries are all part of the group.
With the return of peace to the northeast and locals returning home to pick up the pieces, both government, local and international humanitarian agencies have been a part of the rebuilding process in affected communities in the northeast. Ahead of the February 24 Oslo Humanitarian Conference in Nigeria and the Lake Chad region, representatives of governments of donor countries gather in Borno State to assess communities and find how best to assist. Japanese ambassador to Nigeria confesses that the humanitarian crisis is massive and beyond description. He wants the Nigerian government to do more in terms of intervention programs for the affected population.
Now I think by visiting IDP camps and meeting with the officials of state government, also meeting with the theater commander this morning, I think I get to know more, clearer picture of what's happening. So I'm going to advise my home government to participate in an integrated and concerted effort of international community to alleviate the crisis-affected people's suffering. So I think we have to very closely cooperate to deal with this crisis. We will do our best, but the effort from the international community alone cannot do the work. So the participation of Nigerian government is also a very important factor. So when we go back to Abuja, we will continue to have discussion with federal government.
Ambassador of Ireland is also among those who have interacted with the affected population, as well as the key actors in the northeast. He believes that military operational successes translate to discovery of more displaced persons.
In the area of recovery, this has to be voluntary, as I said, and this has to be at a pace that where people feel that they are secure to go back. And that is a decision for each individual. We've met many farmers and many women who are restless to go back, but would not go back tomorrow if they had the chance. So it is dealing with that. And one thing that is very important is to acknowledge that this takes time, and that deadlines are not going to be set because of shortage of funding. We will commit ourselves in Oslo to fully support the process of moving from a humanitarian crisis to a normalization and to recovery.
The UN humanitarian agencies are appealing for aid to the tune of $1.05 billion for intervention in the Lake Chad region. Ministers from countries of the region, representatives of UN agencies and civil society would be reached on the proposed budgeted appeal.
Meanwhile, in neighboring Yobe State, reconstructed schools and police buildings have been handed over to relevant authorities by the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative. PCNI also presented food and other non-food items to the Yobe State government for distribution to displaced persons.
The Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative has its various teams touring the region to monitor progress of jobs done in the rebuilding exercise. A team is in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital, and their first stop is the seat of government, where the Deputy Governor, Mr. Abubakar Aliyu, and some state executive members hosted them. They list a number of areas where the state government is fixing infrastructure and other areas where it still needs help.
Provision of agricultural tools like tractors and animal traction package, building materials and cash support to enable the returnee IDPs to construct and or rehabilitate their houses.
That noted, the PCNI team moves to hand over the reconstructed schools and police stations, which are expected to ensure law and order in the area. This gesture is most welcomed by the State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Sumono Abdul Maliki.
Conducive atmosphere to work. No doubt about it. And that is very, very paramount in giving our best. Very, very paramount. That's not that we will derive empowerment in doing our job better. We had no place to lay our heads.
Food and non-food items were also donated. The Deputy Chairman of the PCNI, Tijani Tumsa, insists that the initiative is committed to ensuring that normalcy returns to the zone.
We are committed to working in a transparent and accountable manner in delivery of goods and services for the victims of insurgency. The Northeast is particularly affected by the activities of the past 6 years, and the government is resolved to recovering all structures and the livelihoods of people resident within that region.
Beyond the rehabilitation of these schools and the police structures, residents say PCNI still has its work cut out if the means of livelihood of the people of the area must be uplifted. In the meantime, the Yobe State government says it is currently rebuilding the Katako Bridge as well as the Damaturu-Buniari-Maksa Road that were once taken by the insurgents.
Elsewhere, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has assured Nigerians that the report of the accidental bombing by the Air Force that killed occupants of a camp in Ran, the headquarters of Karabalge local government area of Borno State, will soon be made public. The Chief of Air Staff says the committee established to investigate the circumstances that led to the accident is still working to unravel the remote and immediate cause of the accident. Air Marshal Abubakar further says that the Nigerian Air Force is constantly building the capacity of officers and men to ensure greater level of professionalism.
Like we observed when it happened, it's a very tragic one, very unfortunate. And we have set up a committee headed by the Chief of Standards and Evaluation, who has been in Maiduguri. He has visited the village where the incident happened, interviewed relevant people, and they are now in the process of putting together their report. As soon as the report is ready, you will know.
When news across Nigeria returns, Kaura indigents in Kaduna State asked religious leaders to stop preaching messages that incite violence. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.